Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Pages Through Page, and today we are going to be doing my January and February TBR. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first book, the first book that I read in January was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is obviously classic for a reason. I think that everybody has probably heard of Tolkien, The Hobbit, or Lord of the Rings. It is a beloved favorite, the movies, the books, all of it. This was my first time ever reading anything by Tolkien. I didn't even really grow up with the movies. I watched them with some friends, and then I ended up with a boyfriend who is obsessed. So, as part of something that we always like to do, we trade off our interests, hobbies, all of those things. He asked that I read The Hobbit and see what I thought about it. And I did. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. I know that there are probably going to be some Tolkien fans who will be coming for me in the comment section. I thought it was fine, but it just wasn't for me. I think that if I would have maybe grown up with Tolkien or was just younger, um, this would have been better for me or higher rated, but it was just very simple, and I didn't really care for a lot of the extra characters. Bilbo was really the only one that I truly had an emotional attachment with. I had a lot of other attachments to some of the other characters just because I thought they were cool. I like some of their names. Gandalf, of course, I know who he is. So I do think that was partially why I just really did not enjoy this book as much as I wanted to. But it is a classic for a reason, and he is definitely one of the biggest names in classic fantasy, and a lot of books wouldn't be here without him. So I have to give it up for Tolkien, but I didn't really love it. I'm hoping Lord of the Rings will be better, which will be eventually coming on to one of these videos. Next, we have Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. Please, someone correct me in the comment section if I am pronouncing her name incorrectly. But this is a horror story all based on the idea of cannibalism. And what if, as a government, we had to go and start eating each other? This is meant to be a commentary on capitalism and how, for many capitalistic societies, everyone has to ultimately feed off of each other, and you're always hurting the person below you. And it was honestly really well timed. I read this towards the beginning of January, and not only is it a very thought provoking piece and just very disturbing, it was just so well timed for me. I know this book originally came out in like 2020, but when I decided to pick it up, it was just so unnerving with everything going on, especially as an American right now. So it was a wonderful read. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but I think I will go back in and change it to 4 just because I cannot get it out of my head. And I think it will be one that will just continue to haunt me for a really long time. Make sure if you are interested that you check the trigger warnings because there is many more trigger warnings than just the cannibalism. Next, I have Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I have read a decent amount of Ali Hazelwood. She's probably my most read romance author so far. I want to expand out to other romance authors, but I really do enjoy her paranormal stuff. I know it's silly, goofy, but it's just like a good fan fiction to me. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I thought that Serena and Cohen were fun. They were simple. I did have a lot of issues with some of the plot points as to why they couldn't be together, but I did enjoy them as a couple for the most part. I just would have liked for some of the plot points to be a little bit more ironed out. This I can't give you too much information about just due to the fact of it is the sequel to Bride and they are semi-connected more than I feel like most of her other interconnected standalones. But I'm going to try. This follows a girl named Serena who is being hunted by parts of society for being seen as special by many parts of this vampire, werewolf, and human society. And to try and keep her safe, she takes residence in the Northeast Pack, where she meets Cohen, the Pack Alpha. I liked Bride better than Nate, but I did enjoy this one. Like I said, it was just fun. Um, it was a good Ali Hazelwood book. And I'd love to talk and discuss it in the comment section. Just make sure you do like the ... and spoilers. That way we don't ruin it for anyone else who may be late to the party, because I will definitely be late to some of these books, as you're about to see. Next, we have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was a big one on my TBR for February because I really want to get it done and read before the movie came out in March, which would ultimately result in the world falling under a atomic Arctic. We follow Grace as he goes into this trip, and he meets an unexpected friend who also is just trying to survive, much like him. This was very sweet. I really enjoyed most of it, but there were several times when Grace just got on my nerves. I did not love Grace's character, especially towards the end. I thought the supporting cast was probably the best part. But I did also think it was very simple. I am not a science person. I am not smart enough to understand anything about need to go into space. But I understood most of the science and mechanics pretty easily. I did also think that some of the problems and conflicts were kind of repetitive, but I do also imagine that would be very realistic in the situation that they're in. I just, as a reader, was kind of like, okay, I know what's happening. I know that this is going to be an issue again. And I would have liked to have seen them do maybe a little bit something different. But it's still a good book. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm excited for the movie to come out. Next, we have What Moves the Deep by T. Kingfisher. And this was actually my first T. Kingfisher book ever, and I did also enjoy it. The January part of this month was kind of lackluster, I will say. I gave a lot of books 3, 4 stars. I didn't have a lot of really big 5-star reads or anything like huge, but I did have a good reading time these 2 months. This is a retelling of The House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, and I've never read the original, so I can't really speak on how good or faithful of a retelling this is. Honestly, I really picked it up just because I have heard so much good things about T. Kingfisher, and I thought the cover looked amazing. But this is a story where we follow a former soldier, Alex Easton, who grew up and also served with Roderick Usher and also grew up with Madeline Usher. Madeline Usher sends a letter explaining her illness and deterioration to her friend. When they arrive, they find a mycologist and a very confused doctor as a fungus is ravaging the property and seems to be changing everything, not just in the house, but also on the property as well. This was just creepy, fun, very fungal, mushroomy vibes. I think I gave this a 4 stars, but yeah, it was fun. I highly recommend. I really do wish that we would have gotten to see a bit more between Madeline and Alex's relationship, because there definitely felt like there was just so much more there than just 2 childhood friends. It felt like there was just so much love and romance there that just was never spoken truly between the 2, and almost like it just never could happen. And I really would have liked to have just gotten to explore that a little bit more. I could be completely wrong, and there could have been nothing there. Once again, I would love to hear what you think about that in the comments. So next I read Lights Out by Navessa Allen. This is a dark romance comedy where we follow a travel nurse named Allie and a masked TikToker named Josh. Josh decides to stalk Allie somewhat consensually, or at least that's what he says, because she says in his comment section all the time about how, like, she wants him to stalk her. This was, once again, fine in the first half. I liked Allie a lot as a character. She was probably one of the better, I'm sure, FNCs when it comes to dark romance, just because she gave it right back to him. That man wanted to go and stalk her, all these things, and she said, you know what, I'm just going to do it right back. So that was really fun. I think she was a really good FNC, and I think if she would have been written differently, I would have had a much bigger issue with this book and not enjoyed it. I enjoyed it probably until about the maybe 60 or 70% mark. I believe it's chapter 20 that I was done. There's kind of like this subplot besides their romance that is interesting to an extent, but it goes on for way too long, and I got to the point where I was just skimming to say I completed it. I don't do that with books, and I really should have DNF'd it probably then, because I did not enjoy it. I think I ended up giving it 2.5, just because of how awful the last 100 pages were. Check the trigger warnings. It was funny. The first half was really got me into it. I don't know if I'm going to be continuing the series. We'll see. Maybe if you guys really want me to, or to, like, talk about it, I'd probably be more willing to, but we'll see if I choose to do it on my own. Next, we have Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Mass. This is another dark romance, but it's technically a romantasy. This is set in a fantasy modern day world where the world has been taken over Greek titans, and Greek gods have also came out of hiding to fight against the titans. But it's left the world in a dystopian landscape. We follow Alexis, who is orphaned and left with the worst people ever as her guardians, where she meets her adopted brother Charlie and this snake creature, because no one can see her or hear her, named Nyx. She then goes on to take this test when she turns 19 and come to find out she actually is part god. She's then sent to Olympus, basically, where there are other teenagers who are also part god or fully god, to then compete for not only their lives, but to have a spot in Olympus. And we follow her where she just ends up in these insane situations with these guys. She is the only female on page for most of the book. We get one not even side female character. And she's good. She is a very sweet, I feel like, standard side character that you just want that's pretty wholesome. Alexis, on the other hand, is very 19 and has just went through awful, awful things. And I really wanted to love her, but I think she just had went through so much. I was just kind of tired of her by the end, and then also the society that she ends up in. She was definitely the best main character in this book, except for maybe Achilles because he couldn't talk. My biggest issue with this was it just was so sexist, the world was. They constantly are telling her that she needs to not do this competition, and it's like so unbefitting of a woman to be doing this, but they're the ones who are forcing her to do it because she just gets dropped in to this. There is no like, oh hey, you want to do this competition where you're going to be like fighting for your life? She just ends up there and it's like, hey, now you gotta survive. Then we also have the added fact of her mentors are honestly awful, once again, people to her, and really don't mentor her, just basically give her the advice of like, hey, I need you to survive because if you survive, then we have a chance of becoming generals. And as the book progresses, they end up becoming infatuated with her. And the other half of the love interests are her professors, who are 26 to her 19. And one is so misogynistic, and the other's a psychopath. No joke, he literally calls himself a psychopath. Um, I hate that I really enjoyed this. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just because it was kind of fun. It's so problematic and made me want to throw it more often than not. But I sadly will be reading the next book. And yeah, there's lots of cute animals. And apparently the raccoon gets a gun in the second one, so I'm really looking forward to that. Our last and final book of February and January is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is my first nonfiction book of the year and also my first five-star read of the year. This follows the story and history of TB along with some of its survivors and just deaths as a whole, and really discusses and talks about how countries that are poor but really shouldn't be lack the resources such as food to really help their people get better from TB, and how it ultimately just devastates so many families in so many countries throughout the world when it really doesn't need to. One of the best parts of this book is that John Green really does just drive home the point that TB cure is not where TB is, and he says that several times, and it's just so true. I work in healthcare. I have been around TB. I knew that it existed still, but I had no idea or clue how rapid or how rampant it is outside of the US, and just how it affects everyone so quickly and so devastatingly. That was my January and February in books. So I'm really thankful that you stuck around, and I hope to see you in the next video where we are going to be talking about my March and April TBR.